Hi, it's Isabelle, instructor at 22 Way Norway. Today's tutorial is all about the pull-up. And by that, I mean strict, no momentum, full range, unassisted pull-ups. Whether you're still working on your very first pull-up, or you can already do multiple pull-ups in a row, this tutorial will be useful as I will demonstrate exercises and progressions that will either help some of you get your first pull-up or others of you who can already do pull-ups to improve your technique and your pulling strength. Being aware of your body position and activating the right muscles will help you develop a much stronger and more effective pull-up. The first thing we need to do is to be able to properly activate our lat muscles so that we can depress and retract our shoulder blades or scapula. So I'm going to show you from a standing position what I mean. So imagine you're hanging from a bar and your shoulders are shrugged, and then you're trying to activate your lat muscles by bringing your shoulder blades down and in together. So you're doing a depression and a retraction at the same time. Practice a few reps from a standing position, shrugging your shoulders, arms straight by your ears, and then bringing your shoulder blades together and trying to really feel that activation in your lats. So it's a good way to warm up for the pull-ups as well, just to make sure that you get that right muscle activation before you move on to the bar. And as you do that, try to squeeze your glutes and keep your core tight so that you're not excessively arching your back. And this is the next thing that we're going to address. I see many people do pull-ups with knees bent and legs crossed and their backs excessively arched. And while this is not wrong per se, you can still do a full range pull-up that way. I would strongly advise that you get used to engaging your core and keeping a hollow body shape, like I'm demonstrating here from the floor, because this will develop core strength at the same time as you're developing your pulling strength, and you will be able to control your body's position better, and you'll be swinging less forth and back, so having stronger and more effective pull-ups. In order to do the hollow body hold properly, you need to keep your low back in contact with the ground. But if you feel that you cannot hold this position with arms overhead and legs straight for more than say 5 seconds, your lower back is lifting off right away, then it's important to be aware of that and to scale the movement. So don't practice it with your back arch, because then it's counterproductive. Instead, scale it down by either bringing your arms by your sides, like I'm showing here, or if it's still too hard, then you can have one leg down and only one leg up off the ground and your arms still by your sides, and hold it there for as long as you can, and eventually maybe you'll be able to do a harder version of the movement with both legs up or arms overhead. Now that you've mastered the body position, the next step is to get comfortable hanging from the bar. Because of course, if you cannot hang from the bar, it will be very difficult to do a pull-up. So grip strength may be a limiting factor for some of you, and if that's the case for you, I would advise that you spend more time training your grip strength and grip endurance before you move on to the next progressions. The first drill we're going to try is a passive hang. This is the equivalent of having your arms straight by your ears with your shoulders shrugged. But this time the gravity is pulling you down. So your focus here is to grip the bar tightly. I recommend that you wrap your thumb around the bar because this will give you better strength and endurance. And also to maintain your hollow body shape position that we just did from the floor. So think about tucking your pelvis under and squeezing your core as you're doing that, and trying to avoid arching your back. Time yourself and see how long you're able to hang from the bar. My recommendation is to be able to hang for at least 20 seconds before you move on to the next progression. The next drill is an active hang. This is the equivalent of the scapula depression and retraction that we practice from the standing position. So think about bringing your shoulder blades together and down. And this time you should be able to really feel that activation in your lats as they are working against gravity. Again, time yourself and aim to be able to hang in the active position with your hollow body shape for at least 20 seconds. Now we're going to bring the two together and we're going to do what we call a scap pull-up, which is basically transitioning between the passive and active hang. So aim to do about 8 to 10 good reps at your own pace, a pace that feels natural for you. And what's important here is, again, to be able to maintain that hollow body shape throughout the movement and to really feel the activation in your lats as you're bringing your shoulder blades together and down. If you're just starting out in your pull-up journey or you find these drills difficult, I would recommend that you focus only on these 4 exercises at first. This is a general recommendation in terms of volume, but you can adjust it to your own situation. You can do it by itself or at the beginning or at the end of your workout. It's important to develop proper body awareness and not rush too fast if you want to improve your pull-ups. Now we're going to start building our pulling strength. 2 great exercises to start with is the isometric hold with chin over the bar, as well as the reverse row sit back, which I'll come to later. For the isometric hold, bring something under the bar that's high enough and stable so that you're able to jump and bring your chin over the bar without having to actually do a pull-up. And then try to hold yourself at the top of the pull-up, thinking about depressing and retracting your shoulder blades again, but this time your arms are bent and your elbows are in towards your body. And try to stay as high as possible with your hollow body shape. Chin has to stay over the bar, otherwise it doesn't count. And try to hold it there for as long as you can. This is very difficult. At the beginning, you may only be able to do 2 or 3 seconds, and that's perfectly fine. So the goal is to practice this often, and over time, you're going to be able to build up that endurance. So I would recommend you perform the isometric hold for at least 20 seconds. But again, if you cannot hold for 20 seconds in one shot, you can break down that 20 seconds in several bits. And once you get to a combined 20 seconds, then you can move on to the next exercise right after, but you can take a rest in between. The next exercise is the reverse row sit back. For this one, you need something like rings or a suspension trainer if you have one at home, or you can also use a low bar. Ideally, you want the rings or the suspension trainer to be about arm's length from the ground. So as you can see, the movement is basically a row with your knees bent, and at the top of the row, when the rings or the handles are basically touching your rib cage, then you turn your palms forward and you sit back, keeping your torso vertical, holding it there for about 1 or 2 seconds or longer if you can. And then you come back to your row position with your palms turned in if you're using rings or handles. And then you lower yourself down. So keep your glutes engaged the whole time to keep your hips nice and high. And if you want to progress the movement and make it more difficult at the top of the movement, when you're turning your palms forward, you can also extend your legs so that you have more of your body weight. So this is a great way to build up strength in both the concentric and the isometric phase of the pull-up. If you're using a low bar, the movement is essentially the same, but of course this time you don't need to switch your grip as your palms are already facing forward. But really focus on getting the full range of the movement to build up the strength in the concentric phase, so that you're bringing your sternum in contact with the bar at the top. My recommendations for level 2 is to first perform the level 1 drills that we saw before, sort of as a warm-up. But this time only do 1 or 2 rounds, not to fatigue yourself too much. And then alternate between the isometric hold and the reverse row sit back. Build up to max time every round for the isometric hold. But if you cannot do at least 10 seconds in one shot, then break it down in several sets and try to go up to a combined 10 to 20 seconds each round, just so that you have enough time under tension before you move on to the reverse row sit back. So 3 to 5 rounds of a combined 10 to 20 seconds of isometric hold, or more if you can, and 6 to 8 reps of reverse row sit backs. And perform these drills 2 to 3 times per week. The next level is the negative pull-up. Start off the same way as the isometric hold. Jump up to the top of the pull-up and then lower yourself down the slowest and most controlled way possible, all the way down until your arms are fully extended and you're in that passive hang position. At the beginning, your reps will probably be quite fast because it's hard to maintain the contraction the whole time. And your goal is to practice this until you can do super slow reps that last at least 10 seconds. So the recommendations for level 3 is to again go back to the level 1 drills as a warm-up because this will reinforce the proper body awareness. And then perform 3 to 5 sets of 1 to 5 negative pull-ups, and there is a big range there because you may start with only 1, and as you build up the strength you may get to 5, but the focus here is not as much the number, is the time that you're able to spend under tension. So it's better to do 1 super long slow rep and then you're done because you put in your max effort, than to do 5 faster reps. You're going to build up more strength by doing 1 very slow rep than 5 faster reps. And an option is to superset your negative pull-ups with core exercises. So again, either the hollow hold, or you can do planks, Russian twists, whichever kind of core exercise that you want to do. This is only an option, but it's a great way to use your breaks effectively. Once you feel strong in your negative pull-ups, you can move on to more advanced progressions. I'm going to propose 4 variations, and you don't have to perform them in that exact order. Some people may have a harder time at in the top part of the pull-up. Other people more at the mid-range part of the pull-up. So depending, you'll be able to identify where your weaknesses are and focus more on the progressions that you find the hardest. The first one, I called it the halfway hold plus scap pull. It's basically a segmented negative pull-up where you jump up to the bar and then you lower yourself only halfway, so until your arms are parallel with the ground. Hold it there for about 3 to 5 seconds and then continue with control on the way down. And once you reach the bottom in the passive hang, perform 1 scap pull-up because we always want to reinforce the scap activation. And then all of this counts as 1 rep. Repeat for 1 to 3 reps. So starting at the top of the bar, lower to halfway, hold for 3 to 5 seconds, then continue with control, hollow body shape until you reach the bottom, and 1 scap pull-up. The next progression is a top half pull-up plus a scap pull. So it's basically the same drill as the other one, but instead of just holding halfway, you're performing your pull-up from there on the top half, and then you lower yourself down, and at the bottom you perform a scap pull. So if you have a hard time in the top half of the pull-up, focus more on this progression. The next progression focuses on the concentric phase in the mid-range of the pull-up. So again, starting from the top, lower yourself down past 90 degrees. So about halfway between the bottom of the pull-up and parallel. And then perform a half pull-up, so don't aim to bring your chin over the bar yet. And then lower yourself all the way down and perform 1 scap pull at the bottom. So if you find that you are weaker in this range, focus more on this progression. And finally, we're going to put the mid-range and the top half together. And we're going to try to, starting from the top, lower ourselves down past 90 degrees. And then perform a pull-up from there. So it's about a 3/4 pull-up or a cheat pull-up that a lot of people do and think that they actually do a full pull-up. It is not, but it's a good way to build up to a full pull-up. And once you've done your 3/4 pull-up, then lower yourself down with control all the way down, and at the bottom perform 1 scap pull. So here are my recommendations for, I put level 4+ because there's a great range of difficulty here. Again, go back to the level 1 drills as a warm-up and also to reinforce proper body awareness. And then try to perform 8 sets of 1 to 3 reps, properly performed reps of your chosen progression, and that will depend on your weaknesses and your current level. You can also mix up the progression, so for example, perform 2 sets of each. If you're more advanced, I would recommend you try to do 8 sets of the most difficult progression, which is the 3/4 pull-up and a scap pull. And you have the option again to superset with core exercises. And also you can add band assisted pull-ups. I'll touch on that a little bit after your 8 sets, because you want to maximize your strength for your sets, and band assisted pull-ups are just a bonus to fatigue the muscles even more and build up endurance. But you don't want to rely on bands, so it's something that you can add after, because you want to maximize intensity in order to build up strength, and the progressions are a lot more effective for that. If you want to add assisted pull-ups with bands, I would recommend that you use light bands, so no more than about 1 inch wide, because if you use thicker bands, they're going to support too much of your weight and it's not really going to serve any purpose. So you really want to maximize intensity, even if it means that you cannot perform as many reps. And I would also recommend that you perform it in drop sets. So for example, you can start your first set with the lightest band, perform as many reps as you can, and then switch to a slightly wider band, perform as many reps as you can. And then finally, you can combine the 2 bands together and again perform as many reps as you can. This way you will maximize fatigue, but also you won't compromise on intensity. And as I said, using bands is completely fine to increase your endurance, but you don't want to rely on that. So this is why I would recommend you only add it after you've worked on the other progressions. And it's also because the bands will help you more at the bottom of the pull-up when they're fully stretched. And so it doesn't reflect the proper muscle recruitment that you would have in a full and assisted pull-up. If you follow all these steps diligently, you'll be well on your way to being able to perform your first full and assisted pull-up, or to improve your technique on your pull-ups and eventually be able to perform more in one set. Now, of course, this does not happen overnight. The pull-up is a very difficult exercise, so be patient with yourself and give yourself enough time to go through the progressions at your own pace. And of course, you may not have access to pull-up bar right now, but on the bright side, now that the weather has warmed up, I'm sure you can find some trees around, either in your backyard. I know there's some on the base that have straight enough branches that are accessible, where you can try all of these drills, or just monkey around and have fun.